Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming out today. Appreciate it. Great day to be in Chicago. The weather is stunning out there this morning, so I'm really happy to be here. This is a talk today on becoming a partner, operationalize your partnership with Amazon, really understanding how to get the value out of the partnership, and then how we view partnership so that you kind of understand our presets. Now, my name's Ed Otland. I head up the global growth segment for AWS. And what that is our incubator. And it takes partners and, calm that mic down a little bit. It helps partners either transition their practices from what they used to do traditionally, or it takes new partners and helps them build that practice up. So the team folks that we work with are really focused on helping you be successful, and by that, helping our customers be successful. So as we talk about this today, we're going to dive into what the APN is and how to utilize it. There we go. Where we got started, it's no secret. Amazon.com is about a 20-year-old technology company, and that's how we view ourselves, is as a technology company. And what happened out of that about 10 years ago, we figured out that we had been deploying at internet scale infrastructure on demand for all of our business units. And it became a piece of knowledge that we figured out was actually very important to enterprises, small businesses, government entities around the world. And so we launched that and we put it out in the marketplace and we got some very good results. Then as we kept adding services, what happened was we needed the partners to come in and to provide solutions on top to be able to help our customers weave those solutions and those services together. And now we've got a stack of services that allows you to create a very interesting opportunity for your customers and yourselves. And that's how Amazon Web Services got started. It was essentially one big idea that beget another. And so what we're looking for today is that next big idea. We're going to talk about how we view ideas and ideation, those sorts of things. But what I want you to think about is, what do you have intrinsic in your businesses right now that could be important for one of your customers, that could potentially be one of our customers? To do that, we created the APN, or the Amazon Partner Network. And what this is a choose your own adventure, for lack of a better term, way to build your business with Amazon. And what we're talking about here is the structure that we use to help customers and partners both alike find each other. We've got several different categories we're going to talk about today. First off is how the Amazon Partnership Network, the APN, works in its tiering mechanisms. Training and certification, why that's important to you. And lastly, the programs and the processes we put in place to help you be successful. These are all incredibly important things as we go on this journey together. Now, everyone is going to embrace this journey in a different way. You may be a customer of Amazon Web Services right now who somewhere in that company has some interesting IP. Maybe it's a product that you've developed to do something for yourself. Maybe it's a service or a process that you've created that you can then replicate for others in your industry. Maybe you're an existing partner. And we'll talk about maybe an SAP partner. How does cloud affect SAP deployments? Can you take advantage of that? How can you create better customer outcomes? And then lastly, what programs are in place that helps you differentiate yourselves and helps you talk to your customer so that they understand that you've got value within the Amazon Partner Network. The way we think about partnerships and the way we think about our customers and the way we do business has some very core baseline tenets. This goes from our history as Amazon.com. It goes through everything we do at Amazon Web Services. And it starts with the customer. One of the things that we do is we talk to our customers frequently. That's how we actually build our product roadmap. We start from the customer first. Everything you see from us will have started because we had a conversation with a customer. In this case, one of my customers is you, my partners. We spent all yesterday talking to these partners and finding out what was important to them, what they saw in the marketplace, and what we needed to be looking for. Invent, also innovate. The difference here is invent is something new. Innovation is something that you guys have created to disrupt the old. And we look for that frequently. And we want you to be on the lookout for that, because that's the new market. That's the new market we're all looking for. And then lastly, and this is the one that I find everyone questions me on, which is be patient. What does be patient mean? How do we do that? Well, be patient is don't waste time, and it's not sit on your laurels, and we're going to dive into that one in a second here. Let's start with put the customer first, though. When we talk about that, what does that actually mean? Does that just mean that we should sell lots of stuff to the customer? No. What it means is the value of the customer and the value of your company over the long term will come together. If you serve your customer well, if you provide them a high quality service or a product, they will come back over and over again. So if you really dive into your customer, if you take your business and understand what it is that you do to solve customer problems, that is the best starting place ever. Because what we're going to be able to do there is really tightly align the processes, procedures, and everything else in the Amazon partner network so that you can serve that customer better. Because we've got a lot of choices, but if we focus in on delivering for the customer and creating value for them, we're going to be in a really good spot together. And we talk about one of these programs that we've offered is a managed services program. And if you think about this, managed services has been around for a very long time. And what value is a managed service provider? In yesteryear, it was someone who had remote hands. They knew how to run a data center. They could rack and stack servers. It was about bodies touching hardware. Well, how valuable is that now? And if you look at that over time, if you plot that on a graph, what's happened to that business value? What's happened to that margin? We reevaluated what an MSP is in the next generation. And we talk about what that should be. And one of the interesting things that came up yesterday, in fact, our MSP program does something very unique. We audit you. And at first I thought, how are the partners going to react to this? And in the talk yesterday, every single one of them said they were incredibly happy that we brought in a third-party auditor. Because on our website, if you look at the managed services program, you're going to find out what the audit criteria are. This has now become a differentiator and a sales tool for those MSPs that have undertaken that audit. They can now go to their customer and say, we're not only a value partner with Amazon, we've passed a third-party audit, and here's the audit criteria. Now think about if you're in a competitive bid or you want to show and display value to your customer. How powerful is that? Those are the kinds of opportunities that we want to create together, because we can openly display your value and your capabilities to that customer. And once that customer decides that you're the choice to go with, the value that you're going to give them is marginable value. It is something that is much more worthwhile than simply putting in servers, punching the power button whenever a server fails, those sorts of things. But we're going to talk about this a little bit later and give an example of this so you can really understand what it takes to either create that MSP or to transform your existing managed services business. Now, I would be remiss if I left out the product companies in the room. And this is one of the more interesting places to look. So when we take and think about product companies, one of the things that I'm constantly on the look for are non-standard product companies. Are you a intermodal shipper and you've developed a new logistics program? Are you a company that's developed an interesting payment scheme online? These are all potential products that are far outside your core business area. That's essentially what AWS is. That's part of our genetics, and that's what we look for. But I can't really deny that there's a massive amount of software producers in the market today, and we've worked with a bunch of them to migrate their services to AWS so that they're cloud-friendly, or we help them migrate to a SaaS model offering. But Test Drive is one of those programs that we use to help you show your services on AWS. When you're selling software, the experience is a huge portion of it. And getting that experience into the hands of your customer quickly actually has a return. It is a quantifiable return, and you can track that. That's where Test Drive was born out of. Test Drive is a way for you to create a piece of software or take an existing piece of software and make sure it's cloud ready, put it on the Amazon Web Services page so you can direct your traffic there. So not only does it validate your partner, validates that you're probably a very good partner with Amazon, then it lets that customer play with that piece of software in a very safe way. They don't have to use their account. They don't have to upload any of their information. So their information's safe, their account is locked, and they get to see your product. And by the way, how important is this when you can show your customer that not only does your product work, it solved their problem, but it was so robust, it can be deployed with a punch of a button because this is all automated. Think about the value and the safety and the security that gives to your customer. When you're having that discussion about solving a customer problem, now you can prove to them empirically, because they're going to play with it themselves, that it works. And that's why test drive is so important if you're a product company. And I highly suggest that you use it. It shortens sales cycles, and it increases customer confidence in your solution. Invent. We love invention. Invention creates new markets. Innovation also creates new markets. It actually disrupts old markets, to be fair. But we love that. Look for things that disrupt. If you're an existing product company and you sell in a traditional manner, which is shrink-wrap software, downloads, individual environments, we created a program for you that lets you migrate that to SaaS. Now, SaaS is one of the fastest growing, if not the fastest growing segments of software. So if you have a traditional piece of software and you want to partake in a new market or new purchasing methodology, SaaS is the way. But it's not necessarily easy because you're going from a single tenancy to a multi-tenancy, and we get that. Or maybe you've got the idea and you're looking for a marketing methodology around, or a go-to-market methodology around that new product you want to offer. SaaS is a great way to do that. We're going to talk about a customer later that's done that. Excuse me. But the program itself is a birds of a feather program. What we've done is we've taken out and extracted those best practices that we've seen what our partners have done. We've created processes and programs around them. We create webinars so that we can talk about the challenges that you face when you're either migrating or creating a SaaS offering. And then we've created a development sandbox that allows you to go test it and play with it, because we want you to have a great experience. We want our customers to have a great experience. And we know that SaaS is a growing, fast-growing market. So we're trying to enable you to do that and work with us. Now, competencies. This is where we take your innovation and we publicly display it. Where are you great? This market is incredibly big. When I have conversations with partners, I ask them what their focus is. And I might say, what's your geography? What's your segmentation? What's your vertical? What's your workload? And what type of customer is your prototypical customer? And it's because there are so many customers out there and you do so many unique things. Differentiation is incredibly important. That's what competencies are. It shows your capability to execute in a particular workload and or job stream. So are you a SAP partner, a Microsoft partner? We have competencies. Are you a big data partner? Do you do storage and networking? Do you do media and entertainment? Do you do healthcare? So we have horizontals, we have verticals, and we have specific software types. All of these areas help denote what your capabilities are in these particular areas. And so what we want to do is highlight those. We want to highlight to our customers where you're great. Because if you're great in that specific area, that means I can redirect a customer to you. That customer has confidence in you. And that customer is going to get a better experience because of your skill set in that arena. Be patient. Kind of foreshadowed before, this one's tough. When we talk about building a business, the Amazon methodology for building a business is not what's happening this quarter or even this year. We're looking at business over a very long time horizon. And I encourage you to do the same thing, because what happens is it changes your thinking. It allows you to focus intently on the customer. Because again, if you satisfy the customer, over the long term, your business will increase and improve. What it is not, however, it is not sit on your laurels, wait around for it to happen. There are definitive things happening in this be patient time zone. My boss asked me for weekly reports, monthly reports, and quarterly reports. But the reality is we're focused on a North Star, which is increasing the business for AWS and pleasing our customers. When we're focusing, when we're driving, that is where we take and we do the calisthenics of partnership. The calisthenics of partnership are first around education. Now, for those of you who are not partners in this room, you can literally go back to your hotel room or your home, Sign up to become a partner right now. Get access to the portal and start your training today. And I would encourage that. And we're going to talk about training. We're going to talk about its actual revenue-producing effects in your organizations a little bit later. We've got some examples of that. But tonight, you can literally start out by taking Biz Pro, Tech Pro, and total cost of ownership. Biz Pro is how the products work together, how to use the business processes and tools that we've created to help you work with your clientele. Tech Pro is all about the services that we offer and how to string those together in some sort of fashion to create something good for the customer. And TCO is kind of that operational efficiency wrapper that you wrap it up in to talk about why this is an important move. Because after all, we're a disruptive technology that disrupts the economic stream for your customers. And what that disruption does is it creates new opportunities for you. That's the start. It's literally the baseline. And when I have conversations with executives at my partners, I want to see that all of their people have at least the Biz Pro or Tech Pro training or the TCO. And if they're client-facing, I want them to have all three. That's just for the sales staff. Now, if we talk about your engineers and your technical staff, we have certifications that start out with associate level and go to pro level in things like architecture and DevOps. All of those things are really important because what we're finding now, when the customer comes and chats with us, they're asking, actually demanding because it's being written into RFPs, how many certified resources do you have? How many certified resources are working on this project? It is a differentiator. When we talk about this, the customer now can look and say, who is sitting in front of me? Is it a competency partner? And is the person sitting down at my conference room table, are they a certified architect or not? Customers are asking this. They're asking it of me. They're asking it of our sales staff. This is a really important thing. And again, we come back to some of the best practices that we found are around training and certification. Getting your folks educated, understanding the nuances of the platform, allow you to be comfortable with it, and allow you to display the value openly to that customer. And that's what we're looking for here. And aside from just the technical capability to deploy the solution or design the solution, having the confidence in that is where the training comes in. Interestingly enough, we were doing the conference yesterday with some of the technology partners, and I posed the question to them. I said, you build products in AWS. How important is training to you? And a very large security firm said, all of my cloud people, all of my cloud engineers are scheduled to go and get certified within the first 6 months of them taking a job with the company, or in the division, I should say. I thought that was amazing, because I expected that from a services-based company. And here the product folks were telling me that it's incredibly important, and the reasoning was this. They have to understand how the product works on AWS. They want to understand that customer experience. And so that was the really important thing, and that was the driver for them, is making sure that customer got taken care of and the experience was solid. Now, for the services folks out there, I'm going to pose something to you that may seem counterintuitive, and that is, you should push your customers to get trained too. Yeah. We've seen that when the customer gets trained, the partner sales cycle decreases and the volume of their sales goes up. And it comes back down to the old adage, an enabled customer is an enabled, I've screwed that up twice now. An enabled customer is an empowered customer. The reason being is they've gained comfort, they've gained knowledge about how AWS works, and they make faster decisions when they're working with you to implement products or implement solutions. And think about that. By suggesting that the customer go get trained, you're actually not lessening your revenue, you're increasing it. And if you look at my talk at reInvent, we've got a lot of statistics that show that. So it is in your best interest to make sure that your customer gets trained too. It'll decrease your sales cycle time, and it'll increase the volume of sales that you get with a customer. We're going to talk a little bit about the APN itself. And this is one of those things where it's foundational, but it is incredibly important, because this is the structure that we hang all of the programs off of and everything else that you utilize to build that business. So in the APN, there's tiers, and we start out registered, And if you're a services company, you can work your way all the way up to Premier. And if you're a product company, you can work your way up to Advanced. What's really interesting here, the customers are now asking, our sellers are now asking, what level is that partner? And the great thing about this is the traditional way is to make it all about revenue. How much revenue have you produced? How much revenue have you produced? That's your grading system. Amazon, we're very customer focused. And so what we want to see is what outcomes have you generated? This is things like how many case studies do you have? How many individual customers have you won over? How do those customers feel about you? That's what we're looking for. We're looking for that great experience with the customer. So instead of being solely revenue-based, it's outcome-based, and we want to see great outcomes. But now if we take APN tier, we cross-reference it with competency, what do we get? Well, APN tier shows the amount of business and the amount of outcomes you've derived with Amazon. Your competency shows us your main practice area. So think about that. When you're trying to drive value into a sales motion or talk with a customer, they need to be put at ease. So if you can say our competency is in, and our APN tier is, and the person sitting in front of you is certified at this level, have you differentiated yourself? Yeah, because now I know what your core skill is, I know you can do it on Amazon, and I know the person sitting in front of me is competent at doing that for me. So talk about creating great customer experiences. And that's what we're trying to do is drive a level of transparency that allows you to differentiate your business. We've got tens of thousands of partners in the ecosystem. And so when we look at this, what's important? If you have tens of thousands of partners, where do you start? But if I could say, I need a big data partner, and I need them in Chicago, and they should be the APN top tier, advanced tier, I can do that. And we've got a partner finder that actually helps the customer do that. These are the really important things when we talk about differentiation. So one of the other things that we talk about when we start taking APN tier and we talk about competency, and we start linking them together, what we also get is really interesting partner-to-partner scenarios. And this is important because as you focus your business, as you create value in a specific niche, that niche could be viewed as a wider solution set. If you're a big data partner, let's say, and we talk about that in the competencies, and you do high-performance computing, that's great. Who's the ingest partner that brings that software or that data into AWS? Who's your visualization partner on the other side? You're the middle chunk. You're that wedge point. But through the competency, through the APN tiering, you can take a look at those other folks that occupy your space and create an elongated value chain. Now, how important is that? From a customer outcome, it's incredibly important because it allows you to be successful, to create successful solutions for that partner, even outside of your area of expertise, because we've got other partners that can help. And through those competency arenas, through the APN tiers, it allows you to find the other partners in your arena that you can partner with to create higher value for that customer. And that's when we talk about the power of an ecosystem, and that power resides in you. We want you to help these customers move forward, and we want to create great outcomes for the customer. So when we put that customer first, we're going to put this actually into practice, and we're going to talk about some actual live customers and the partners that have served them. So I'm not going to tell you who the customer is yet, but I want to talk about the partners first. So in this case, we have Chef. They're about a 7-year-old company, and they do automation software. And what that does is it creates a way for you to treat infrastructure much like software. You can test it, you can try it, and the same way you would do that with code, you can actually do that with physical infrastructure. What it does for the DevOps team, however, is it eliminates repetitive tasks. So once you've figured out how to do that, Chef lets you create a recipe. That recipe then becomes a push button. So imagine how fast you can move when the business owner talks to the DevOps person and says, I want to try this, and with 3 punches of a button, maybe some more, that infrastructure is built. It's a very powerful tool. Then we talk about ClearScale. This is about a 4.5-year-old company that is now a premier partner, the top tier consulting partner for AWS. It's pretty quick, right? We tell you to focus on the long term, But the reality is 4 years to go from, I think cloud is going to be a really good business, to top-tier partner with AWS. That's pretty awesome. But what they did is they focused. They focused on that transition and the migration to the cloud, either for staffs that didn't understand how to utilize cloud properly, or for staffs that were already too busy to do that move. So they get together, and they did some great stuff for this customer. Shinola is a US-made maker of luxury products here in Detroit. Excuse me. Here in America, in Detroit. They're a retail company. What happens in Q4 every year for retail companies? There's an expected spike. They had a physical infrastructure deployment for their website, one of their main customer acquisition portals. They have stores around the world, but the website's where they make a large volume of sales. They knew that website in its physical infrastructure was not going to handle the load of what was coming. The issue was, if they wanted to order equipment, that takes a while, it's incredibly expensive, and at the end of it, they're still stuck with equipment for 3 more quarters that they're not going to be using it. So they started looking at, what can we do to solve this problem? They also had another problem. Their DevOps team was taking too long to create the benefits for the customer, to get the products out the door. And so together, they looked for Chef and ClearScale, and what they're able to do now is create a solution in a very short order. When the business owner decides that they want to create something, the DevOps teams can do that immediately. But in the migration, what's really interesting about this is Chef sat down with them, and they did a mock migration. They did a new design. They refactored some of the application to take advantage of cloud, to give back computing when it wasn't necessary. And then they also set up in a secondary region, so they had built-in disaster recovery. Now with all of this consulting, all of this migration, this took a month. It also saved the customer 30% of the infrastructure cost. Not to mention their DevOps team is pretty happy because they can move a lot faster. But this is the kind of outcome that you can drive for a customer. And if you think about this, this is a partner that got started basically 4 years ago and 7 years ago, and they created value for that customer. Invent, or in this case, innovate. And I talked to you a little bit before about the SaaS program itself, and I'm going to talk about a partner who's actually doing great things using that. So you may have seen the CEO on stage at reInvent a couple of years back, and it's one of my favorite phrases. Friends don't let friends build data centers. Great phrase. And you know why he said that? Because it allows him, with a 13,000 person company with 9,500 technical employees, to focus on creating great customer experiences. He got out of the data center business. So all of that overhead about running, owning, operating, maintaining, deploying servers went away. He wants to think like a startup. And to do that, I believe the word he used is every dollar counts. So I can invest that dollar in people that are going to create cool products that serve my customer, or I can put that into infrastructure. I'd rather focus my dollars on the people that are going to make a difference for my company. And so to do that, Infor focuses in what they call the last mile technology. So it's niche products. In essence, what you would normally call an SI to do for you and build bespoke software. They're now able to offer that as a SaaS model. And what that does is it lowers the cost to the customer. It disrupts a traditional market and provides scalable solutions to customers all over the globe. And that's how Infor is using AWS. And they were one of our first all-in partners. And they leaned in very tightly to AWS, and they're doing great things. So when we talk about that, that's a 2-year-old transition, maybe a little bit more. But when we talk about building a business for the long term, he's built a sustainable business, and he's doing it to create more value for that customer. Now lastly, be patient. And I love this story. This is a company that's actually older than Amazon. So LogicWorks is about a 23-year-old company. We already covered that Amazon's about a 20-year-old company. So they were a traditional MSP out of the Northeast. And they did the traditional MSP thing. They bought hardware, they released it, they racked it, they deployed it, they networked it together. They did all of those things. Then about 4.5 years ago, they realized that that marginable value was shrinking. The market was getting more competitive. And they had to figure out what to do. And the idea here was very simple. What's important to the customer? It's not the actual physical server. It's what that server does for them. That server runs software. That software provides a solution. And so they said, can we do this without having to own and lease back this equipment? And the answer was yes. There's this really cool infrastructure as a service company called Amazon Web Services. They're going to do it for me. I can now refocus the business on doing something that's much more valuable for my customer. And now, when we talk about be patient, I told you it was not resting on your laurels. It was not waiting around for things to happen. They had to transform their contracts. They had to transform their billing. They had to work on their sales model. There were staff that needed to be retrained. When we talk about retraining, and I talked to you earlier about the power of training and what that means, 50% of their entire company has at least one certification on AWS, including the CEO. He's a certified architect. I think that's really important. What it talks about is every person in that business truly understands how to utilize the Amazon infrastructure to the benefit of their customers. So when they have a conversation, they're having a conversation about a solution and a software solution that resides on the equipment. So they've moved up that stack. Their value has increased, and also their leverage has increased. Simply by doing the training and focusing on the solution layer instead of on the infrastructure layer, the revenues went up by 400%. Their staffing only went up by 50%. So that means they're gaining leverage in the market. So your revenue per head can go up. So we can affect the outcome of a business. In over 4.5 years, they've been in business for 23. The inflection point came and started 4.5 years ago. And by the way, they continue to be a success and delight customers, which is incredibly important to us. So I'm going to leave you with the points here. We want you to start thinking about the customer first. We want you to focus and obsess there, because when you understand that customer and that customer need, you're going to be able to create a massive amount of value for that customer. Second, actively look for invention or innovate, whether that's a process, a tool, a piece of software. Any of those things create differentiation and create value. And then lastly, be patient. And while you're being patient, work your tails off, because there's lots of great stuff to do out there. There's lots of work to do. There's focus, there's build, there's training, there's certification, there's understanding the new sales motion, there's understanding what you have to do to be successful. And then over time, your business will grow. Once you're successful for the customers, customers tell other customers. And when they tell them that you did great, you're going to get more customers. And that's how we build a business together. And that's how we build a very solid business designed for the very long term. Now, I'm not going to take questions from the audience today, but spread out kind of throughout the room are Amazon folks that work for different segments of the Amazon Partner Network, whether they be partner managers, marketing managers, program managers. We all work for Amazon. And if you have any questions whatsoever, no matter how detailed, other than database migration level questions, I don't think we have any essays in the room. The folks will be spread out around the sides of the room. They all have yellow lanyards like this. Please feel free to reach out to them and ask them any questions you have. Thank you very much for spending the morning with us. We appreciate it.